we're these people. There we go. Hey, these people. I'm Jordan. This is Nick.
Yep.
And there's actually 2 other people on the team who weren't here. One of them works at NASA, so he's out in Ohio. That's my twin Brian. And the other one is getting murdered at BYU right now. It's David. Apparently BYU is super hard. I'm ready to believe it. But yes,
this is the game we made. We need to go deeper. As far as why we're giving this talk, it made over 10K sales in the first month, so pretty good for people who haven't made a game before. And these are the people here, some of the people who covered us. Marky Caterpillar, Yoshi's Island, and
Chicken Mouth.
Chicken Mouth, and Jack
Stink Eye?
Stink Eye, yeah.
Something like that.
All those guys who were
first name basis
with.
We know all of them. I really like Mickey in the top left. He's a good dude. So yeah, We Need to Go Deeper is a cooperative submarine game. You're a bunch of little guys controlling different parts of a submarine, trying to get to the bottom of a deep sea trench, and getting beat up the whole time by all the sea creatures. That's roughly the elevator pitch. It's in a Verne-inspired universe, but we'll get to why that's a cool thing. So the bulk of this presentation, for entertainment's sake, is going to be a almost in no order list of things that we did and whether or not they worked.
Vaguely chronologically.
Vaguely chronologically.
Yeah.
Cobbled together, not cobbled together. That was a lie. Don't worry about that last part. Okay, so here's a timeline of how the game was made. Nick, do you want to go through this?
Sure, yeah. So, a little more than 4 years ago, we were reminiscing about our times at space camp as elementary students. So
yeah, did anybody get to go to the Krista McAuliffe Space Center?
Before it closed?
Yes, they reopened somewhere else. They opened in like a church or something like that. They renamed, but they're still around.
It was just this little Star Trek experience for kids where everyone got to play a different role. We were reminiscing about that, and we came up with this idea for a module-based robot game. So Jordan put together this PowerPoint presentation on December 30th, 2012, and from there was a lot of rapid prototyping, turning into this kind of game where a bunch of little people were controlling a giant robot. We had kind of these 50s B-movie elements entering into it. And then later on we kind of shifted gears, and we'll get into that. And it turned into submarinegame.gm8. Way down the line, maybe a year or so later, I'm not doing the math right now in my head, I don't care. We eventually reach a point where we go to Salt Lake Comic Con with our game, which is now called We Need to Go Deeper, and it breaks down, breaks down a whole bunch, and it's chaos. And so we feel like it's time to switch engines, which puts us in the long depression. And now we're here. We emerged from the long depression. There's
we survived. I mean, at least 2 of us, right?
Yeah.
There's evidence of 2 people surviving this. So here, again, in essentially no order, are things that we tried, whether or not they worked, okay? So here's, if anyone was here the last time we gave a talk, we spoke about designing a game concept that is unique but familiar, something that kind of can tie people in with properties they know or things that they're familiar with, but also give them something new such that they have a really decent pitch. So we started with this condo robot game, and it was really, really complicated to explain. I won't even bother.
Yeah, it was getting overly complex, and the theming was similarly growing in that way. So yeah, so we shifted gears to something that was easier to grok, and it was a Verne submarine, not like the Nautilus submarine. Yeah, everyone's working together in that instead of a giant robot.
Yep.
Which ties something you know with something kind of new. The results that we got is that the game was easy to pitch, and being easy to pitch and easy to understand in a quick sentence, everybody else wound up coming up with better sentences than us. We actually stole this one for our elevator pitch for the Steam store.
Oh my gosh! Is that where you?
That's where I got
your email from?
What?
With your chums?
No, I didn't write the email that way. Our Steam description is this now because they probably got more clicks than our Steam store page did at first. So we stole that line because that was a great way to describe it. But point is, it was easy to describe and easy to understand for for YouTube and helps them get clicks, right?
Oh, do you want to talk about the theming?
Sure.
This was kind of more your deal.
Yeah, so along the lines when we had our really complicated B-movie themed plot about giant people operating giant robots in the post-apocalyptic 50s, we shifted gears into something that's just easier and less politically charged.
Right?
Because there's all this stuff about DuPont Industries in there and stuff, and
It got weird.
it got weird. So we had to simplify, and so we found the adventure novels from Jules Verne, and it seemed like you can still have a crew of people doing stuff. So we took a whole bunch of stuff from this and kind of made it our Bible, our design, our Bible as far as theme goes, and stole from it liberally, and then also. Because it's in the 19th century, we sprinkled tons of historical, outfits in there for the hell of it.
Heck of it.
For the heck of it.
For the darn of it.
For the darn of it. And the result of that, incidentally, was that it had a wider appeal. Because as it turns out, Jules Verne novels are known around the world, and while American outlets didn't really pick up on the theme as being the interesting part to them, a lot of overseas outlets wound up mentioning the Jules Verne connection, which to us indicated that was important to them. And so, as you can see, there's over half of our audience is not from the U.S. It's from everywhere else.
Yeah, we're exactly divided between us and them. But the additional
They liked our game.
Yeah, they
Somehow.
do. But the additional part of the wide appeal that's worth mentioning is our choice to not go overtly family friendly or not overtly not family friendly. That sounds really weird. I hope that made sense, right? So the deal is, if you don't care too much or focus too much on whether your game is family friendly, it appeals to everybody. So we have an enormous age range for our players, and one of our most popular YouTubers, even though we don't have a screenshot on here, is a family that plays it together from Utah. Baraghost, anybody heard of them? That's okay. Don't worry about it. But they get us a lot of views, and they just play as a family, which is pretty cool, up against people like Mark Caterpillar and Jack the Stink Eye guy, whatever his name is.
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper, yes.
Yeah. So, other stuff that we did throughout development, we engaged and participated a lot in a bunch of online forums and competitions and stuff.
Nick
we did very goofy stuff like enter us in on a whim this Taco Bell indie game competition, which advertised its prize as just Taco Bell money, and we won. And we got
Taco Bell today on it.
we got Taco Bell today on it. We're still out using that. 500 Taco Bucks. And they had other perks that we didn't know about until afterwards, which we'll get into. But and then TigSource, and I'm a personal big fan of the site Something Awful. So turns out they also have a game development community, and I engage with them pretty frequently about our game.
Yep.
So the result of this was a bunch of connections that we got that turned out to be really useful. So by posting devlogs on TigSource, Nathan Grayson from Rock Paper Shotgun found us and did an article. Jack Patillo from Rooster Teeth, he found us via the Taco Bell competition because he was a panelist for the winners. He talked with us on an AMA and he remembered us later on, and at the very least it earned us perhaps the click to remember what our game was and decide that he was interested in playing it. And then this guy turned out to be, he was just some random goon on Something Awful, and he turned out to be a journalist for TigSource, and he wrote us a front page TigSource article.
Yeah. If you guys want a good story about this, by the way, Jack Patillo here.
Did I say anything wrong?
Oh, I don't know. Is it Patillo or Patillo? They're from Texas.
I don't know.
Anyway, he sends us this email, this reply on the day that we send out the game over to him. And when he asks here, is the multiplayer working right now? Nick replies yes. The real answer was no. And so I got to scramble all day to make sure that it did work by the time they installed the game, and it did.
Speaking of throwing people under the bus, this is our programmer Ryan, and this was one of our programmers, Ryan, right? And I quote, he said, "That won't take long." In regards to this next subject of switching engines.
Yeah.
When the subject came up. Here's what happened. 4 years later, we emerged, and our game has turned to dust in front of our eyes. But we also, it was really useful. We definitely needed to switch. Do you want to tell them why we switched?
Oh, absolutely. So there were a couple of reasons that we got out of GameMaker specifically. One was that GameMaker had a theoretical file size limit at the time. So if your project got big enough, GameMaker would start to collapse on you. It just wouldn't work. This was a known problem for them, and it dealt with their program being 32-bit and being unwilling to take on more RAM. So they have a theoretical file size limit, and we whacked into it really quick. The other problem is that GameMaker's networking is literal garbage. Literal garbage.
There's a reason why Nuclear Throne is not online.
Yes. So it turns out, if you use GameMaker's networking, you have no control over threading, and you can have a packet coming in and interrupting another packet being read out. That's fun. And it also has no handling of packet loss. That's really fun. Turns out you cannot make a commercial online game with GameMaker. So we had to switch to Unity. There was literally no way around. I mean, we could have switched to Unreal, but you know what I mean? Like, you can't stick with GameMaker.
Yes. It just, we wound up doing Unity because it had 2D tools that released at the time that finally looked okay, so. Another thing we tried doing, generally, was not taking ourselves too seriously, specifically in regards to the game content in this case. Most all of these things were suggested by fans or family or someone. And we said no initially because we're making a game where we want our in-game universe to be treated seriously.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to do that much. I mean, it depends on the game, but in our case, we did wind up caving a lot of these. Yeah, we have a penguin, we have a killer clownfish, we have a lot of kind of goofy stuff. And this goofy stuff wound up being really useful because it creates what I call thumbnail headlines. Akin to what an elevator pitch gives a press when in the form of a headline. It seems that YouTubers sort of go off of thumbnails. They're looking for things to put interesting in their thumbnails, and if your game has weird stuff that perhaps other YouTubers haven't seen or haven't covered, it seems like more likely they're to utilize the weird stuff in your game to create clickbait headlines.
Yeah, so it's mutually beneficial to have goofy things that everybody can click on. But in addition to not taking the game content too seriously, we also didn't take ourselves too seriously, as you can probably tell. We came at this not as Deli Interactive with the fans. Every single one of us on Steam changed our Steam name to our real names. So we came at our fans completely transparently as ourselves, which a lot of people don't do, and I understand why. They can hurt you, but
yeah. So we did lots of kind of sociable things. We have what are called these are hangout streams. We don't develop the game in front of our fans necessarily. We just hang out with them. We put on public domain movies and we chat. Although, quick tip: when you are putting on public domain movies, so that you don't get flagged, make sure the public domain playlist you put on does not contain the film
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation.
As it turns out,
not a good one to have on there. The most racist movie of all time, accidentally playing during your live stream.
As you're doing a big giveaway.
As you're doing a big giveaway.
Big giveaway. Yeah, that got super weird. We're making jokes about the movie as it's behind us, right? We're like, oh yeah, that moon got a big giveaway, right? And then at one point, there are just shots of slaves. And we're like, whoa, this doesn't look like a big giveaway at all. And we find out we're playing Birth of a Nation to our fans. That was a good day.
Quick note, these hats here, this is another case where we're not being super serious with our fans and kind of being playful. We get a lot of hat requests in our game, and some people request memes, and I don't want to put memes in our game because I don't like that. So instead, the compromise is I've been transforming people's their requests into something they don't exactly want, but technically fits their requirements. So someone asked for a dog hat, and this is a doge is also what you call the Chief Magistrate of Venice, and so this is the hat of the Chief Magistrate of Venice, who is called a doge hat in game. And then similarly, someone asked for the Deal With It sunglasses, and I told them that they didn't have sunglasses back then, but they do have sun hats. And so this is the Put Up With It sun hat. That did pay off. People like when you're human and playful, and people took a liking to us personally, as well as the game. We sort of became part of the product, and we also became part of what made it fun to interact with the community. Our community engagement was a lot higher when we kind of started doing this playful stuff, and people knew that if they talked on the forums, in all likelihood we would respond, and often with a joke if there was one we had, and people making jokes at us. There's a lot of these are people poking fun at us, and it's back and forth, and it's fun. If people, I don't know, community's more fun to engage with, I guess.
And another reason that you would want to appear, to your community as a person, is that
it sets realistic standards.
It sets realistic standards, and when they start coming at you on the forums, people will come in and start backing you up. It's crazy.
Yeah, someone comes in, oh yeah, that's what this is. Someone put up on the FAQ, decided to keep the forums clean, make it easier for the devs. The less time they have to spend on answering questions, more time they have for debugging and college.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was important, and they know that. Something else that we did throughout development, I would call it a try, but we just always do, is to not take ourselves seriously when developing the game. These are all gags and jokes and stuff that come out through the Slack, and I honestly, when you're making this the same thing for 4 years, plugging away at it, it gets really depressing. So making jokes helps lighten the load. Some of these are whole channels on Slack were dedicated to jokes. That's the $1 Million Idea channel, where you post $1 million ideas, usually puns. Like what you would call someone to insult them, which is a rutabaga, which works best on people who look like rutabagas. And this guy over here is Handy Randy, and I made he is I took advantage of him for the sake of writing a document for the team on how to use SteamPipe for putting builds in the game. All he does is make sex jokes the whole tutorial, so that worked out as far as it could. I mean, we made the game.
Yeah, the toaster is still out of the bathtub.
Yeah.
That's coming out on top. Come on now. All right, but we still got to fly through here.
Yep.
So another thing that we tried, prior to release, obviously you need testing, right? How are you going to know that your game's going to work if you're 4 people and you're making a multiplayer game? We recruited about 80 people primarily from the Something Awful forums, and thought that no rewards would be sufficient to have them come back to us with bug reports.
Because the reward is the game.
The reward is the game! Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so here's what happened. Everything was on fire when we released. There were 1 billion networking bugs. Making a multiplayer game when none of you have a degree in networking, I don't even know what that degree is called. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. Here's the most recent search results for Connect in bugs and problems of our Steam forums. That yields 97 entries. That was good. I had a good time. So the first 2 weeks were like literal actual hell. We produced 11 patches or 52 bug fixes and 1 content update in 13 days since release. That was nobody slept. I mean, it was 21-hour day after 21-hour day. back to back.
Launch day was not a celebration in the slightest.
No, yeah, we had to literally ignore our Steam forums in order to celebrate launch like a week after.
A week after, yeah, we had to just put everything on the back burner, even though it was still broken.
Oh, it was.
Just so we could give ourselves some sort of celebration for coming out of this after 4 years. Anyway, so after all that shit, yeah.
Here, I'll do this one. 'Cause
Yep,
this
go.
was primarily me.
Yep. That it was.
So, when your forums are on fire, when you're getting a bunch of bad reviews for your early access game because stuff is broken, one thing you can try is to go out and do what other industries do, not the game industry, and that's legit customer service, guys. So, from day one, I went out to our Steam forums and I replied to every single problem that ever came up.
Redundant or not.
Redundant or not, which is why I have 648 entries in my replies since we released. Every single one. That is customer service. So if people come in and they tell you there's a problem, redundant or not, you address it, and you tell them that they're not crazy, and you tell them that you're going to fix the problem, and then you fix it. And when you do customer service, the reviews completely turn around. And notably, on all of these reviews, they're actually mentioning us. They're mentioning that we take the problems and we fix them. And that's a big deal. You'll notice on early access games, the phrase dead game, devs don't care, abandoned, right? These are things that we really feared. But if you come out there and you show that you're a real person, you use your real name, and you fix the problems, every single one of them, you can completely turn it around. And that is actually what we did. So we built a really strong community off of this, and we built a really pretty good set of reviews.
Yeah.
We're sitting at like 83% overall right now.
Yeah, yeah. We're
Which,
feeling very positive.
for a game with plenty of bugs, that's pretty good. So we're happy with that. We also tried one extra, really experimental, really scary thing, and that comes from the restaurant business. When your meal comes out completely wrong, and you tell the waiter, they take it off the check. So we tried this. If our game came to you, and it wasn't a game, it was a brick, we gave you a free copy of the game in secret, and no one got to know about this policy. But as it turns out, thank you for that disgusting gift, Nick. Our users who were leaving bad reviews because the game was broken, or our users who were threatening for refunds, didn't refund. So it cost us nothing to give them a key, and we still keep their money, right? Are you see where I'm going with this? You can just keep the money. Now, you don't do this if you get a bad review, any bad review, right? And there are policies against this. You don't go out and tell people to go change their reviews. That's a crazy person's job, right? Instead, you come out and you do your customer service.
Yeah, you give them something. You don't.
Yeah.
You let the rest play out if it's going to play out. And some of this turned into people not only turning around and being like, oh, okay, I'll keep the game and enjoy it, but became some of our biggest fans, our biggest backers. One of our fans, who is represented by this GIF, exploding with joy, has been super engaged with the community constantly. He's one of the people who gives us feedback most often. He comes to every stream. He's one of our
He's
most valued dudes.
Seriously, yeah. He actually helped us test a whole bunch of stuff that was broken and fix it.
Because
So we got to fix his problems with him on the fly. That was really cool. All right, so yeah, do you want to go through
Sure.
this?
Yeah. So after the explosion that was released, we decided we needed to start incentivizing testing for experimental branches. So we created a branch with a totally overhauled networking system that was going to potentially break everything or fix everything. We didn't know, so we wanted people to come in and test and tell us what was up with it. So we came up with the idea of, we'll just, if you come in and test and you post, we'll give you a code that unlocks a special beta testing hat, a little blobfish. So here's the result of that.
Oh, if I can get it. Here we go.
Uh,
Yeah, that sucks too.
yeah.
Turns out there is no way to get people to test with or without rewards and give you good feedback without making a nightmare for yourself. This hat is ruining our lives right now. There are really, really entitled people constantly hounding us for this goofy little hat. It's very polarizing.
Not that we didn't give the people the hat who we said we give the hat to, but for one thing, just doing that alone was a logistical nightmare, and that it created an expectation for the hat, or for a hat like it, for every basically for every push we did. Like everybody assumed beta testing was the entirety of early access, and so everybody assumed everybody would get the hat, and that would not make it exclusive for the old people, and it would be a logistical nightmare to send it to everyone else. So it's just been a big pain in the ass.
If anybody figures out beta testing, we would love to know what the real answer is. We never figured it out.
Probably pay people.
Yeah, okay, pay people, yes. Oh yeah, okay, this one's gonna sting. Sorry guys. I mean, no, this one's gonna go well and everything was great. No, we tried going to conventions, including one that the Indie Games Guild hosted with the, what do we call it?
There's GameCon, there's Salt Lake Comic-Con, there was the Leonardo, there's a couple. Some of them were free, some of them were paid. And the ones that were paid, a convention, cheap for a convention is still like...
It's over $1,000.
It's still over $1,000. Like, you're always paying up the butt, like a little bit. Like, depends on, if you're poor college students who don't have any spending money, spending $1,000 is, you know, puts you $1,000.
That's 1,000 Taco Bell tacos.
Taco Bell
just
tacos.
to remind you.
Fed yourself with. So, to us, this wound up being needless spending. The benefits we got out of conventions was almost next to none. Most of the discussions around the benefits of conventions usually specify that it comes with an intangible value. And if you're first-time indie developers and you don't have any money, intangible is not good enough, and we should not have spent the money, because all the press connections that were useful to us we got outside of these things, and some of the conventions that were useful to us were free. So free conventions are good. We personally think that for the budget we had, which was $0, conventions are unnecessary.
Yep. Oh yeah, so really briefly, as far as the release date went, we tried making a more memorable release date by releasing on Jules Verne's birthday, which is February 8th. If anybody knew that offhand, you're a crazy person.
Yeah, that's why we specified it in the trailer.
Yes.
Because, yeah, the goal here was to make it, you know, memorable, little fun factoid that people would like to spread and help keep the game's release date in mind. So.
And it was.
Yeah,
actually, articles that wrote about it, they did talk about the date, and and also one thing that the articles really love to do is pretend that they knew that first. And they go, fun fact, that's Jules Verne's birthday.
They didn't hear it from us.
Did you know? But what also happened with our release date is that we got sandwiched between two bigger budget releases. One being Diluvian, which was a really refined single-player experience.
A Verne submarine game that just so happened to be very similar in theme, coming out around the same time. Yeah, it was a little. It made it a little trickier to stand out because there's two of them out at the time. And then right after that, Blackwick came out and blew everyone else out of the water with a similar concept, which is a cruise sim on a pirate ship.
Yep.
So even the nautical theme's still there though. So. And then this does not fit our cute little format, so we just threw in a bunch of other stuff that we wanted to say, which is mainly regarding underwhelming first impressions.
Yeah, put your best foot forward.
Yeah. So we had a whole region in our game. The biomes were randomly chosen in our game, and one of them was called the Stormy biome, or the Cursed biome. And this is what it looked like on release. Muddy, and you can't really see anything because it was dark, and you can use the lights, but you shouldn't because you can technically see enough to get by. And it had monsters who, when you killed them, spawned another monster. Every single monster did this. We did not test this area very thoroughly, and everybody hated it, and almost guaranteed when a big YouTuber or a big streamer would cover our game, they would get this area by chance.
Oh yeah, and you know what the chance is of getting this one?
33%.
15%.
Now it's
I
15.
bumped it.
No, you bumped it after.
Oh,
that's
okay.
why we did it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Later on, we redid this entire area so that it wouldn't be shit, but it's...
Crap.
I don't know why we released thinking that this was good enough, just this area. Like, we thought the whole game was good enough, but this area wasn't. We probably should have thought about just taking it out first. And then other things like lots of networking bugs in the beginning, obviously, that did lose us some press. So people who tried the game and had the networking errors were like Giant Bomb and stuff, so they didn't wind up covering us.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I got someone told us that Giant Bomb, hey, Giant Bomb stream, they're gonna play your game, and then they had a networking problem, and they just said, oh, okay, we'll move on. So that sucked.
Yeah, that was hard.
Um,
But yes.
Okay.
So we're super low on time, and what we can do is take questions and answers out there, and that will work a-okay. If you're
Sure.
looking for a distilled version of the PowerPoint, there's some good stuff.
all the basic stuff. So.
And that's all we got. Thanks, guys.